Before we dive in, drop a quick hi in the comments. It may seem small, but trust me, it really helps YouTube share this story with more sci-fi fans like us. I'd love to see who's watching. A ripple cut through the ionosphere, an abrupt, low-frequency tremor that struck orbital instruments milliseconds before the sky over the southern hemisphere dimmed. Civilian satellites realigned with jittery precision, tripping into fail-safe protocols. Weather systems scrambled. Then came the shadow. The Dotharn's will emerged without warning, obsidian hull plating wrapped in shifting blue glyphs, a titanic construct wider than any Earth city, moving like a mountain pushed by unseen hands. It cast its presence across the Indian Ocean sky, entering low orbit with no clearance, no protocol, no warning. No flare of arrival, just arrival. In Sydney, traffic stopped mid-intersection. In Johannesburg, schoolchildren stared upward through playground windows. Across islands, deserts, coasts, and oceanic territories, the light faded and silence spread. Then, every broadcast channel on Earth, analog, digital, military, private, encrypted, was overwritten. On the bridge of the Dothan's will, Grain Executor Violent Tissar stood as still as iron. He was tall, skeletal in shape, wrapped in a segmented black carapace that shimmered faintly with internal heat. The elongated skull and amber crystal eyes of his species, the Rakvek, were motionless, eyes like carved glass, sharp and hollow. To his left stood High Diplomat Jura Nell of the Volari, clad in layered ceremonial cloths interwoven with silver thread, tall boots laced up to her hips, and a circlet of white metal shaped like thorned vines curled around her crested temples. She blinked slowly, chin tilted upward, the subtle curl of her lip betraying satisfaction before the message began. Valen's voice, heavy with ritual and the weight of a 3 millennia empire, rolled out over the transmission with deliberate cadence. This message is issued on behalf of the Eternal Dynast of the Zorak Dominion and the Starfold Accord. Humanity shall now be integrated into the Order Stellar. Tribute will be expected. Infrastructure will be corrected. Subjection is peace. The camera slowly widened, revealing behind him a long arc of subordinate officers, alien species of varying physiologies, some plated in iridescent exoskeletons, others thin and translucent, with cranial augmentations and twin mouths. They all wore the black and gold of the Imperial Command, the shared uniform that erased their origin and bound them in a single will. The broadcast ended. In Brasilia, Paris, Chicago, Kyoto, and Nairobi, chaos spread like fire. Emergency broadcasts fought for airtime against the now looping Imperial decree. Families crowded around smart walls, handhelds, visor feeds. Analysts speculated in real time. Was this a hoax, a simulation, a test? No one answered, but someone already knew. 5 kilometers beneath the Himalayan crust, in a sealed structure known only as Erebo Base, the message finished playing on a holographic display with no sound. The room remained silent for a moment. No one moved. No one panicked. The table's holographic projection showed a precise 3D model of the Dotharn's will, rendered in real time, its trajectory marked, gravitational distortion plotted, mass ratios pulsing in blue. A secondary screen had already finished parsing the alien dialect, tagging syntax structures and cataloging idiomatic markers. The system flagged it as rehearsed ritual speak, cross-compatible with 3 prior annexation events. Atmospheric compression overlays glowed along its flank. Major Noah Philbin stood with arms crossed, observing satellite telemetry pulsing from orbital points along the equator. They bypassed the outer relay nets, he said, voice even. Military satellites picked up the shear 15 seconds before the blackout. Gravitational distortion consistent with D-class mass entry. They never blinked on approach. Overconfident, Miko muttered, eyes still fixed on her display. Doctra. Miko Tanaka was perched on the edge of the secondary control station, one boot up on the base of her stool, chewing on dried mango. Her long black hair was tied into a rough braid, and her sleeves were rolled to the elbows. Streams of data reflected in her glasses. She pointed lazily at a rotating scan of the Dotharn's power profile. "That hull plating is trying so hard to look impressive," she said. "Still bleeding heat through its aft nodes. And look, sensor wash is... Hold on. Yep. They're using cascade beam transponders. Vintage." Philbin smirked. "They brought a throne ship, a monument dressed like a weapon." At the head of the room, Commander Otto Bertrand said nothing. He was staring at the projection with the kind of stillness that made others lower their voices. Tall, shoulders squared, short silver hair clean against his temples, his uniform black and unmarked, save for a single silver line at the collar. A low chime sounded. A console updated with pulse returns from deep orbit. Bertrand's eyes didn't move, but his voice cut clean through the room. "Code Omega is in effect." Philbin immediately keyed his terminal. "Ghost grid coming online. Global defense clusters initiating blackout. Strategic assets vanishing from open scans. Now." In NORAD, an operator blinked as 10 strategic orbital signatures vanished from his interface. He tapped twice, rebooted, nothing. In Moscow, the Aerospace Command's alert screens shifted to static. In Tel Aviv, a general simply stood, muttering, "They're gone." In an instant, dozens of command centers across the globe dimmed into obscurity. Optical arrays in Earth's orbit began reorientation protocols. Long-range communications relays silently shifted into quantum-locked transmission modes. Not a single move was visible to the public. Tanaka gave a half grin. "Public still thinks this is first contact." Bertrand finally turned his gaze toward the projection of the massive alien ship, now tracking directly over the Indian subcontinent. Lights on its lower decks pulsed like faint cities. "They're showing off," Philbin said. "Trying to intimidate." "Let them," Bertrand said. In Geneva, the UEG Security Council scrambled to initiate emergency protocols. In Ankara, energy reserves were rerouted to satellite surveillance. In São Paulo, drones took off from vertical farms, looping skyward toward a threat they were never meant to face. But Erebo Base remained still. Bertrand finally stepped forward, arms behind his back, watching the orbital model rotate one more time. The Dotharn's will, gliding like a specter above Earth, had not changed course in the slightest. The projection's orbit analysis indicated no targeting systems were active. No shields raised, no weapons primed. It wasn't a battle stance. It was presumption. "They think we're ornamental," Miko said. Philbin leaned on the table with both hands. "Do we confirm visual presence?" Bertrand turned toward the control console and keyed in a direct access line. "Confirm all civilian broadcast vectors are being monitored," he said. "But do not engage. Let the show play out." Above ground, billions remained frozen in a mixture of awe and fear. Governments postured, commentators speculated, but none had answers. The world had fallen still beneath a shadow. Inside Erebo Base, however, the silence wasn't fear. It was calculation. Bertrand's eyes swept one last time across the telemetry readout, then toward his two companions. Miko met his look with an arched eyebrow. Philbin gave the faintest nod. Then, Bertrand allowed the smallest edge of a smile to form at the corner of his mouth. "They really think we're farmers with radios? Let's remind them what kind of farmers we are." As the Imperial broadcast looped across Earth's public networks, the Dotharn's will initiated its first maneuver, dispatching a diplomatic vessel toward the planet's surface. Their assumption was clear. The next step would be submission. The ramp hissed open, releasing a wave of pressurized air that rolled into the dry heat of the Australian interior. A searing wind dragged dust over the landing struts of the Imperial shuttle, which gleamed like obsidian glass beneath the midday sun. It was an elegant machine, curved edges, ceremonial markings, and thruster pods still glowing faintly from descent. The shadow it cast was crisp, precise. The High Diplomat Shuranel descended first. Her boots clicked against the platform with calculated grace. She was tall, almost 2 meters, with luminous violet skin and angular features. Her high Volari cheekbones framed by silver faceplates and a narrow crest that arched backward like a ceremonial blade. Her robe shimmered with woven circuitry, every thread pulsing gently beneath the light. Behind her came 2 Dotharn honor guards. They were enormous, wide-shouldered creatures of the Syrax strain, armor-plated in glossy black, jointed limbs thick and heavy, breathing masks molded into the snarling jaws of extinct predators. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, more like machines than living beings. None of them spoke as they stepped onto the reddish stone of the desert plateau. Before them stood nothing but a solitary transport vehicle, matte black, heat-scorched, unadorned. There was no banner, no greeting party, no honor guard, just wind, sun, and dust. A human in plain fatigues leaned against the driver's side door of the vehicle, arms crossed, sunglasses reflecting the figures as they approached. His name tag read Harris. He didn't salute. "You're late," he said, opening the passenger door. "Get in." Shura blinked once, a slow, deliberate narrowing of her eyes. "This is not the standard protocol for planetary accession." Harris shrugged. "Not a standard planet." They entered without further protest. The drive was long and quiet. The landscape stretched out in all directions, flat, cracked earth interrupted by the occasional dead tree or scorched boulder. A thin line of black mountains shimmered on the horizon. Eventually, the transport crested a ridge, revealing a facility partially embedded into the base of a mesa. Angular walls, reinforced plating, low-profile turrets retracted into concrete recesses. No flags, no insignias, just shadows, heat, and silence. The vehicle entered through a retractable gate, disappearing into a tunnel carved directly into the rock. Inside, the delegation was led down a wide corridor with black composite walls and exposed support beams. Pale lights lined the floor, and soft hums echoed from unseen machines. There were no guards, no grand halls, no sign of ceremonial preparation. In the chamber, one of the analysts whispered to Miko, "You think she'll do the full oath?" Miko smirked, not looking up. "She won't get to the second clause." At the far end, a door opened into a rectangular chamber, functional, undecorated. A single table sat in the center, flanked by 10 chairs, half of them occupied. The room smelled faintly of metal and ozone. At the head of the table sat Commander Otto Bertrand. His posture was still, controlled. Hands folded loosely over a datapad, gray eyes locked on the incoming guests with the detached focus of a sniper. His uniform was a simple matte black, collar lined with a narrow strip of silver. No rank displayed, no ornamentation. Major Noah Philbean stood near the rear of the room, arms crossed over a reinforced vest, his expression unreadable. He said nothing, only watched. To Bertrand's left, Dr. Miko Tanaka leaned casually against a console, chewing something and holding a paper bag. Her hair was braided over one shoulder, lab coat unbuttoned. Her face lit with calm amusement as the aliens entered. The doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. Jura stepped forward, her tone instantly ceremonial. "On behalf of the Eternal Dynast and the High Executorate of the Zaurak Dominion, I, High Diplomat Jura Nell, initiate formal first contact protocol for system assimilation. You will henceforth..." Philbin didn't move.